The
Buddy?
dog was supposed to be dead,
Oh my God.
buried beneath 3 years of grief,
It is
frozen
him.
rivers, and unanswered prayers. So when 6-year-old Emma Parker pressed her tiny hands against the shelter glass and whispered 5 words that would shatter everything her brother believed, the world stopped spinning. "Can I buy that dog, brother?" She had no idea what she had just done. No idea that those innocent words would unravel a secret their family had buried for 3 long years. No idea that the golden retriever staring back at her with tired, ancient eyes was about to change their lives forever. What happened next broke everyone who witnessed it. If stories about love, loss, and impossible reunions touch your heart, you are exactly where you belong. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change the way you see the world. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever experienced something that felt impossible but turned out to be real? And if this story moves you, share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles. Now let us return to that shelter, where a young man stood frozen, staring at a ghost wrapped in golden fur. 23-year-old Ethan Parker could not breathe. The fluorescent lights of Hope Harbor Animal Shelter in Columbus, Ohio, buzzed overhead like a warning he should have heeded. The air smelled of cedar chips and old sorrow. Dogs barked in distant kennels, their voices blending into white noise. But Ethan heard none of it. His entire existence had narrowed to a single point. A heart-shaped patch of white fur on a golden retriever's chest. A patch he had traced with his fingers 1,000 times as a child. A patch that belonged to a dog named Biscuit. A dog who had drowned alongside their mother 3 winters ago. Emma tugged his jacket sleeve again, oblivious to the earthquake happening inside her brother's chest. "Ethan, look at him. He is so sad. Just like me." Her voice was soft, fragile, carrying the weight of grief no 6-year-old should know. She had stopped laughing after their mother died. Stopped singing. Stopped believing in happy endings. Their father, Richard, worked double shifts at the factory just to keep food on the table. He barely had time to breathe, let alone help his daughter heal. So Ethan had stepped up. Dropped out of Ohio State during his junior year. Moved back home. Became the parent Emma desperately needed. He thought a dog might help. A new companion. A new reason to smile. He never expected to find this. The golden retriever lifted his head slowly, as if waking from a dream that had lasted years. His muzzle was gray. His movements were stiff, weighed down by age and exhaustion. But those eyes. Deep brown. Impossibly gentle. They locked onto Ethan with a recognition that made his stomach drop. The dog rose from his thin blanket, bones creaking, and walked toward the glass. He pressed his nose exactly where Ethan's trembling hand rested. A low whine escaped his throat. The same sound Biscuit used to make when the brothers came home from school. The same sound that once meant safety, love, and home. Ethan's mind raced backward through time. 3 years ago, their mother, Catherine Parker, had been driving home from visiting her sister in Lancaster. A snowstorm had swept across Route 33 without warning. Her car skidded off an icy bridge and plunged into the frozen river below. Rescue teams searched for days. They found the car, crumpled and empty. But they never found her body. The current had been too strong. The water too deep. They buried an empty casket that winter, lowering it into frozen ground while Emma screamed for a mother who would never answer. But what haunted Ethan most was not the funeral. It was the other loss no one talked about. Biscuit had been in that car. Their mother's constant companion. Her first baby, she always joked. The golden retriever who slept at the foot of her bed and howled every time a storm rolled through. Gone. Both of them. Swallowed by dark water and winter wind. Until now. Emma was still talking, but her words seemed to come from miles away. "Mommy always said dogs choose their people. Maybe he is choosing us." Ethan's vision blurred. Mommy always said. He forced himself to look again, searching for any difference, any proof that this was just coincidence. But every detail matched. The way the dog tilted his head. The small scar above his left eye from a backyard accident years ago. The heart-shaped patch that their mother used to kiss every night before bed. This was not a coincidence. This was impossible. A kind voice interrupted his spiral. "Beautiful dog, is he not?" The shelter manager, an older woman named Patricia, approached with a gentle smile. "He came in about 6 months ago. Anonymous drop-off. No collar. No chip. Just a sealed envelope we were told to keep safe. Ethan turned sharply, his heart slamming against his ribs. An envelope? Patricia nodded. Strangest thing I have seen in 15 years of running the shelter. It was wrapped in plastic, like someone wanted to preserve it for years. Instructions said to give it to whoever adopted him. She paused, studying Ethan's pale face. But no one ever did. People want puppies. Not old souls with secrets. Emma looked up with wide eyes. What is inside the envelope? Patricia hesitated, then retrieved a weathered envelope from behind the front desk. She placed it gently in Ethan's trembling hands. His blood ran cold. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. Elegant. Familiar. Impossible. 5 words that stopped his heart completely. For my children. When Biscuit finds his way home. Ethan's knees buckled. He grabbed the counter for support, the envelope clutched against his chest. Emma wrapped her tiny arms around his leg. Ethan? What is wrong? Why are you crying? He could not answer. His fingers moved on their own, tearing the envelope open. Inside was a single photograph, faded and folded at the corners. A woman standing beside a cabin in the woods. Snow on the ground. Pine trees stretching toward a gray sky. A golden retriever at her feet. And the woman herself. Auburn hair. Soft eyes. A face Ethan had seen in his dreams every night for 3 years. Their mother. Alive. On the back of the photograph, written in pencil that had faded but never disappeared, were 3 words and a location. Hocking Hills. Come find me. The room spun. Emma stared at the photograph, too young to understand, too innocent to grasp what it meant. But Ethan understood perfectly. There was no body because there was no death. Their mother had not drowned that night. She had vanished. Deliberately. Intentionally. And now, after 3 years of silence, she had sent the only messenger who could find them. The one soul who would never stop searching. But as hope ignited in Ethan's chest, darker questions clawed their way to the surface. Why had their mother faked her death? What had she been running from? And if she was alive in some cabin in Hocking Hills, why had she never come home? Ethan looked down at Emma, her innocent eyes reflecting the photograph she did not yet understand. He looked at Biscuit, the impossible dog pressing against the glass, waiting to be claimed. And he looked at the envelope in his hands, carrying secrets that could either save his family or destroy it completely. He made his decision. We are taking him home, Emma. Her face lit up like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Really? Ethan nodded slowly, clutching the photograph against his chest. And then we are going to find Mommy. But what Ethan did not see, what no one in that shelter could have known, was the black SUV parked across the street. Engine running. Windows tinted. A figure inside watching the shelter entrance through binoculars. When Ethan walked out with Biscuit, the figure reached for a phone and dialed a number that had not been used in 3 years. They found the dog. The son has the envelope. A pause. What do you want me to do? The voice on the other end was cold. Calculated. Familiar. Follow them. And make sure they lead us straight to her. The line went dead. And somewhere in the hills of southeastern Ohio, a woman stared at an old photograph of 2 children she had left behind. A single tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered into the silence of her cabin, I am so sorry. But you were never supposed to find me. She looked out the window at the endless trees. And now everyone is in danger. The envelope felt like a bomb in Ethan's hands. Ticking. Waiting. Ready to explode everything he thought he knew about his family. He sat alone in the living room of their small house on Maple Street in Columbus. The contents of the envelope spread across the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. Biscuit lay at his feet, finally home after 3 impossible years. Emma had fallen asleep upstairs, exhausted from the excitement of the day, clutching a photograph of their mother she did not yet understand. The house was silent. But the secrets scattered before Ethan screamed louder than any sound. He unfolded a second page hidden behind the photograph. His mother's handwriting again. But this time, the words were not gentle. They were desperate. Frantic. Written by a woman running out of time. The letter began with an apology. It ended with a warning. And in between, Ethan discovered that everything he believed about his family was built on lies. His hands trembled as he read the final line. The words were written in red ink, pressed so hard the paper had nearly torn. If you are reading this, trust no one. Not even your father. Ethan's blood turned to ice. He read the line again. And again. Each time hoping the words would change. They did not. His father, Richard Parker, had been the one constant in their shattered lives. The man who worked double shifts. The man who held Emma when she cried. The man who stood beside Ethan at the funeral and wept for a wife he would never see again. How could their mother warn them against him? What did she know that they did not? The front door opened. Ethan shoved the papers beneath a cushion, heart pounding. Richard stepped inside, still wearing his factory uniform, grease staining his hands. He looked exhausted. He always looked exhausted these days. But something else flickered in his eyes tonight. Something Ethan had never noticed before. Fear. "You're home early," Ethan said, forcing his voice steady. Richard nodded slowly, his gaze sweeping the room. "Heard you went to the shelter today. Emma finally getting that dog she wanted." "Yeah. We found one." "Good. That's good." Richard moved toward the kitchen, then stopped. His eyes landed on the coffee table. On the corner of the envelope, barely visible beneath the cushion. His face went pale. "What is that?" Ethan's pulse raced. "Nothing. Just some paperwork from the shelter." Richard stared at him for a long moment. Too long. The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Then he nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. But Ethan saw his father's hands. They were shaking. Upstairs, Emma slept peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering below. But Biscuit was awake. Alert. His ears flattened against his head. A low growl rumbled in his chest. He was staring at the kitchen doorway. At Richard. Ethan made a decision. He needed answers. And he knew exactly where to find them. He waited until midnight. Until his father's snoring echoed through the thin walls. Then he crept downstairs, Biscuit padding silently beside him. The old dog moved like a shadow, instincts sharpened by years of survival. Together, they approached the one room Ethan had always been forbidden to enter. His father's study. The door was locked. It had always been locked. But Ethan had learned to pick locks years ago, back when curiosity felt innocent. Tonight, that skill would change everything. The study was small and cluttered. Filing cabinets lined the walls. A desk sat in the center, covered in papers and old coffee cups. But it was the photograph on the wall that stopped Ethan cold. His father, decades younger, standing beside men in dark suits. A building rose behind them, official and imposing. 3 letters were visible on the facade, partially obscured by shadow. FBI. Ethan's heart stopped. His father had never mentioned working for the government. Never mentioned anything beyond the factory, the bills, the endless struggle to survive. But this photograph told a different story. A story of secrets. Of hidden lives. Of lies built upon lies. He opened the top drawer of the desk. Inside, he found more photographs. Documents. A file stamped with words that made his stomach drop. Witness Protection Program. Case File 7741B. Status active. And at the bottom of the file, a name. Catherine Parker. His mother. Ethan sank into the chair, the world spinning around him. His mother had not drowned. She had not abandoned them. She had been placed in witness protection. Hidden from something so dangerous that she had to fake her own death to survive. But hidden from what? And why had his father never told them? A floorboard creaked behind him. Ethan spun around. Richard stood in the doorway, his face twisted with a mixture of fear and resignation. He looked at the file in Ethan's hands. At the photographs spread across the desk. At the truth finally exposed. "You were never supposed to find that," Richard whispered. Ethan rose slowly, anger boiling beneath his skin. "Find what, Dad? The fact that Mom is alive? The fact that you lied to us for 3 years? The fact that you let Emma cry herself to sleep every night for a mother you knew was out there?" Richard stepped forward, hands raised. "You don't understand. I was trying to protect you." "Protect us from what?" Silence. Answer me. Ethan shouted. Biscuit barked, the sound echoing through the house. Somewhere upstairs, Emma stirred. Richard closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears streamed down his weathered face. Your mother was a federal prosecutor. Years ago, she built a case against a network of corrupt officials. Powerful people. Dangerous people. When they realized what she had, they threatened all of us. You, Emma, me, everyone she loved. Ethan's voice cracked. So she disappeared. It was the only way. The marshals arranged everything. The accident. The empty casket. She had to die so you could live. Then why didn't you tell us? Why let us suffer? Richard's voice broke. Because grief is easier to fake than fear. If you knew she was alive, you would have searched for her. And searching for her would have gotten all of us killed. The words hung in the air like poison. Ethan wanted to scream. Wanted to break something. Wanted to wake up from this nightmare and find his mother in the kitchen, making pancakes like she used to every Sunday morning. But this was not a nightmare. This was his life. And it had been built on lies. Where is she? Ethan demanded. The photograph says Hocking Hills. Where exactly is she? Richard shook his head. I don't know. After she disappeared, all contact stopped. For your protection. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. Then how did Biscuit end up at that shelter? How did he find us? Richard's face went pale. Paler than before. That's what terrifies me. Someone sent him. Someone who knows where she is. Someone who wants you to find her. Who? I don't know. Richard stepped closer, gripping Ethan's shoulders. But whoever it is, they're either trying to help us or finish what they started. And until we know which, we are all in danger. Footsteps on the stairs. Small. Soft. Innocent. Emma appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed rabbit, her eyes heavy with sleep. Daddy? Ethan? Why are you yelling? Richard wiped his tears quickly, forcing a smile. Nothing, sweetheart. Go back to bed. But Emma was looking at the desk. At the photographs. At the file stamped with words she could not yet read. Her eyes landed on a picture of Catherine. Her lips trembled. That's Mommy. Silence. Why do you have a picture of Mommy in the secret room? Ethan knelt before his sister, taking her tiny hands in his. He looked at his father. At Biscuit. At the impossible truth scattered around them. Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. She nodded, eyes wide. Mommy is not in heaven. Mommy is hiding. And we are going to find her. Emma's face lit up with a hope so pure it shattered Ethan's heart. Really? We're going to see Mommy. Yes, baby. But you have to be brave. Can you do that? She nodded fiercely. I can be brave. Biscuit will help me. Richard stepped forward, his voice urgent. Ethan, you can't do this. You don't know what you're walking into. Ethan stood, jaw tight. Then come with us. Help us. Be the father you should have been 3 years ago. The challenge hung between them. Richard looked at his children. At the dog who had somehow survived the impossible. At the photograph of the woman he still loved. And slowly, painfully, he nodded. We leave at dawn. But as the Parker family prepared for a journey into the unknown, none of them noticed the shadow moving outside the window. A figure watching from the darkness. Listening. A phone buzzed in the figure's pocket. A message appeared on the screen. They know. They're coming to Hocking Hills. Intercept them before they reach her. The figure smiled and disappeared into the night. And somewhere in the hills of southeastern Ohio, Catherine Parker woke from a nightmare. She reached for the shotgun beside her bed. Her hands were trembling. She whispered into the darkness, "They're coming. God help us all. They're finally coming." But she was not talking about her children. She was talking about the people who had been hunting her for 3 long years. And they were closer than anyone knew. To be continued. The black SUV appeared in the rearview mirror for the 3rd time in 20 miles. Ethan noticed it first. A shadow trailing them through the winding roads of southeastern Ohio, maintaining the same distance, never falling behind, never getting closer. Just watching. Waiting. Hunting. The October sun hung low over the hills, casting long shadows across Interstate 33 as the Parker family drove toward a truth buried deep in the forests of Hocking Hills. Emma sat in the back seat, humming softly to herself, one hand resting on Biscuit's golden fur. She had no idea they were being followed. Ethan intended to keep it that way. Richard gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles, his eyes flicking to the mirror every few seconds. He had not spoken since they left Columbus 3 hours ago. The weight of 15 years of secrets pressed down on him, suffocating and relentless. He had spent so long protecting his children from the truth that he had forgotten how to tell it. Now the truth was chasing them down a highway, and he had no idea how to outrun it. Ethan leaned forward from the passenger seat. That SUV has been behind us since we passed Lancaster. Same distance. Same speed. Tell me I'm paranoid. Richard's jaw tightened. You're not paranoid. Then who are they? Silence. The kind of silence that confirmed every fear Ethan had been trying to ignore. Emma looked up from the back seat, her innocent eyes catching her brother's reflection in the side mirror. Are we almost there, Ethan? Biscuit keeps sniffing the air. I think he knows we're getting close to Mommy. Ethan forced a smile he did not feel. Almost, Em. Just a little longer. But the truth was, he had no idea how much longer any of them had. The SUV behind them was a reminder that they were not alone in this search. Someone else wanted to find Catherine Parker. And Ethan suspected their intentions were far darker than a family reunion. Richard made a sudden decision. He jerked the wheel right, pulling off the interstate onto a narrow county road that twisted through dense forest. The SUV hesitated at the exit, then followed. No longer hiding. No longer pretending. They're still behind us, Ethan said, his voice tight. I know. Dad, what do we do? Richard accelerated, the old truck groaning in protest. There's a gas station about 5 miles ahead. Public place. Cameras. They won't try anything there. We stop, we regroup, we figure out our next move. The plan made sense. But nothing about this situation made sense anymore. Ethan pulled out his phone, searching for the location of the gas station. His signal flickered, weakened by the thick canopy of trees surrounding them. They were entering a dead zone. Isolated. Vulnerable. Exactly where their pursuers wanted them. The gas station appeared around a sharp bend, a small oasis of civilization in the middle of nowhere. A faded sign read Miller's Stop in letters that had once been read but had long since surrendered to the Ohio weather. Richard pulled in beside the only other vehicle, an old pickup truck belonging to a farmer loading supplies. The black SUV rolled past the station without stopping, but Ethan saw it turn onto a side road half a mile ahead. Waiting. Watching. Stay in the car, Richard ordered. I'll go inside, see if there's another route to Hocking Hills that doesn't take us past them. Emma clutched Biscuit tighter. Daddy, I'm scared. Richard leaned back, brushing a strand of hair from his daughter's face. I know, sweetheart. But remember what I told you. Parker family rule number 1. Emma nodded, her voice small but steady. We stick together. No matter what. That's my girl. He disappeared into the station, leaving Ethan alone with his sister and a dog who had somehow survived the impossible. Biscuit's ears were flattened, his body tense. He sensed the danger even if he could not name it. Ethan reached back and scratched behind the old dog's ears. It's okay, boy. We're going to find her. We're going to bring everyone home. But even as he spoke the words, doubt clawed at his chest. What if they were too late? What if finding their mother meant losing everything else? A tap on the window shattered his thoughts. Ethan spun around. A woman stood outside the car, her face partially hidden by the shadow of a dark coat. She was smiling, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Cold. Calculated. Dangerous. Pretty dog, she said, her voice muffled through the glass. What's his name? Biscuit erupted into furious barking, lunging toward the window. Emma screamed, pressing herself against the opposite door. Ethan's hand flew to the lock, ensuring it was secure. Who are you? He demanded. The woman tilted her head, studying him like a predator studying prey. Just a traveler. Passing through. Same as you. We're not the same. Her smile widened. No, we're not. You're looking for someone. And so am I. She reached into her coat pocket. Ethan's heart stopped. But instead of a weapon, she pulled out a photograph. She held it against the window, letting Ethan see. His blood froze. It was his mother. Recent. Alive. Standing beside a cabin with a young woman Ethan had never seen before. A woman with auburn hair and eyes that looked exactly like Catherine's. Your mother says hello, the stranger whispered. She's waiting for you. But so are we. She slipped the photograph through the cracked window, then turned and walked toward the black SUV idling on the side road. Ethan watched her climb inside. Watched the vehicle disappear around the bend. Watched his entire world collapse for the second time in 24 hours. Richard burst from the gas station, his face pale. We need to go. Now. Dad. Ethan's voice was hollow. Who is the woman in this photograph? The one standing next to Mom. Richard froze. His eyes locked onto the photograph trembling in Ethan's hands. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he collapsed against the truck, all the fight draining from his body. I was hoping you would never find out. Find out what? Silence. Dad, who is she? Richard looked at Emma, then back at Ethan. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. Her name is Lily. She's 25 years old. And she's your sister. The world stopped spinning. Ethan stared at his father, waiting for the punchline. Waiting for some explanation that made sense. None came. I don't have a sister. You do. You always have. She was born before you. Before Emma. Before your mother and I even got married. Emma's small voice cut through the chaos. I have a big sister? Richard knelt before her, tears streaming down his face. Yes, baby. You have a big sister. And your mother has been protecting her, from a distance, for her entire life. Ethan's mind raced, struggling to process the impossible. Protecting her from what? From the same people chasing us. Richard nodded. Lily was the reason your mother first got involved with the case. Those corrupt officials, the ones she was investigating. They knew about Lily before any of us did. They threatened to hurt her if your mother didn't back down. So Mom gave her up. She had no choice. It was the only way to keep her safe. Lily was placed with a family far away from here. Your mother has watched over her from the shadows ever since. When she disappeared 3 years ago, she didn't just go into hiding for herself. She went to protect Lily. To finally be with the daughter she had to abandon. Ethan slammed his fist against the dashboard. How many more secrets are there? How many more lies? Hopefully no more after today. The words hung in the air, hollow and unconvincing. Ethan looked at the photograph again. His mother. His secret sister. A cabin hidden somewhere in the hills ahead. And a network of dangerous people determined to find them all. He started the truck. What are you doing? Richard asked. What I should have done the moment I found that envelope. I'm going to find Mom. I'm going to find Lily. And I'm going to bring this family back together. No more secrets. No more lies. Richard climbed into the passenger seat. Emma held Biscuit close, her small face set with determination. The old dog lifted his head, sniffing the air. His tail wagged. He knew they were close. An hour later, they turned onto a dirt road unmarked on any map. The trees grew thicker, the shadows deeper. And then, through a break in the forest, Ethan saw it. A cabin. Smoke curling from the chimney. A woman standing on the porch, shielding her eyes against the fading sun. Auburn hair. Soft eyes. A face Ethan had dreamed about for 3 long years. Their mother. Emma broke free from her seatbelt and ran. Mommy. Catherine's face crumbled. She dropped to her knees, arms open, tears streaming down her cheeks. Emma crashed into her embrace, sobbing, laughing, finally whole. Ethan stepped out of the truck slowly, hardly believing his eyes. Beside Catherine stood another woman. Young. Auburn hair. Familiar eyes. Lily. The sister he never knew he had. But before Ethan could speak, before he could take a single step toward the porch, Catherine's expression changed. Her eyes locked onto something behind him. Something in the trees. Her face twisted with terror. She grabbed Emma and screamed, "Get inside. Now. They found you." Ethan spun around. Headlights. 3 sets of them. Cutting through the darkness. Engines roaring. The black SUVs had arrived. And they were not alone. Catherine Parker moved like a woman who had rehearsed this nightmare 1,000 times. Before Ethan could process what was happening, before the headlights fully emerged from the tree line, she had already grabbed Emma and shoved her through the cabin door. Lily followed close behind, her face pale but composed, as if she too had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Richard stumbled up the porch steps, his breath ragged, his eyes wild with a fear Ethan had never seen in his father before. And Biscuit, the impossible dog who had brought them all together, stood at the threshold, barking furiously into the darkness that was closing in around them. Inside. Everyone inside now. Catherine shouted, her voice carrying the authority of a woman who had survived 3 years in hiding. This was not the gentle mother Ethan remembered. This was someone else entirely. Someone forged by danger. Someone who knew exactly what was coming. Ethan was the last one through the door. He barely crossed the threshold before Catherine slammed it shut and threw 3 deadbolts into place. But she did not stop there. She ran to the bookshelf against the far wall and reached behind a row of old novels. When her hand emerged, it was holding a shotgun. Emma screamed. "It's okay, baby," Catherine said, her voice softening for just a moment. "Mommy knows what she's doing. I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Lily knelt beside her, wrapping protective arms around the sister she had never known. "I've got her. Do what you need to do." Catherine turned to face her sons. Her husband. The family she had abandoned to save. "We don't have much time. They've been circling for weeks, waiting for you to lead them here. I knew this day would come. I just hoped I'd have more time to prepare you." Ethan stepped forward, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "Prepare us for what? Who are these people? What do they want?" Catherine met his gaze, and for the first time, Ethan saw the full weight of what his mother had been carrying. 3 years of isolation. 3 years of watching her children grow up through distant photographs. 3 years of knowing that one wrong move would get everyone she loved killed. "They're called the Foundation," she said, the name falling from her lips like a curse. "A network of corrupt officials, businessmen, and criminals embedded in the highest levels of government. 15 years ago, I was assigned to investigate a series of financial irregularities in federal contracts. What I found went deeper than anyone imagined. Money laundering, bribery, murder, all connected to people who were supposed to protect this country." Richard moved to the window, peering through the curtains at the approaching headlights. "Kathy, they're getting closer. At least a dozen men." "I know." Catherine chambered around in the shotgun. "When I started building the case, they threatened me. Threatened all of you. I didn't back down. So they escalated. They found out about Lily, the daughter I had given up for adoption years before I met your father. They said they would kill her first. Make me watch. Then take Emma. Then Ethan. One by one until I destroyed every piece of evidence I had gathered." Ethan felt sick. "So you faked your death?" "It was the only way. The marshals helped me disappear. Staged the accident. Made it look like I drowned in that river. The Foundation believed I was dead. They stopped looking. And for 3 years I've been hiding here, gathering more evidence, building a case so airtight that when the time came, I could bring them all down." Lily spoke up, her voice trembling. "She found me 2 years ago. Showed up at my apartment in Cincinnati. Told me everything. I've been helping her ever since. Encrypted servers. Backup files. Dead man switches that will release everything if we don't check in every 48 hours. Ethan's mind raced. "So if they kill you, the evidence goes public anyway?" Catherine nodded. "That's why they haven't killed me yet. They need to find where I've hidden the files first. Destroy the evidence before destroying me. But now that you're here, now that they know you can lead them to me, they have leverage they didn't have before." A crash echoed from outside. Someone was testing the perimeter. Checking for weaknesses. Ethan grabbed a fire poker from beside the hearth, the only weapon within reach. There has to be a way out. You've been hiding here for 3 years. You must have planned for this. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. I planned for everything. She moved to the corner of the cabin and pulled back a worn rug, revealing a trapdoor in the wooden floor. There's a tunnel beneath the cabin. Runs half a mile east to an old ranger station. I dug it myself the first winter. If we can make it there, I have a vehicle hidden. We can disappear again. Richard pulled away from the window. They're surrounding the cabin. We have maybe 2 minutes before they breach. Catherine looked at her family. The husband who had betrayed her to protect their children. The son who had sacrificed everything to raise his sister. The daughter she had abandoned and finally reclaimed. And Emma, the little girl whose innocent question in a shelter had set all of this in motion. I'm sorry, Catherine whispered. I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I made you grieve someone who wasn't gone. But I need you to trust me now. Can you do that? Ethan hesitated. 3 years of pain. 3 years of believing his mother was dead. 3 years of watching Emma suffer. But he also saw the truth in his mother's eyes. The sacrifice. The love. The impossible choice she had made. He nodded. Catherine opened the trapdoor. A narrow ladder descended into darkness. Lily, take Emma first. Then Richard. Ethan and I will hold them off as long as we can. Lily lifted Emma into her arms. Come on, little sister. We're going on an adventure. Emma clung to her neck. Will Mommy come with us? I'll be right behind you, baby, Catherine promised. I will always find you. Remember that. No matter what happens. Lily disappeared into the tunnel. Richard followed, pausing at the ladder to look back at his wife. Kathy, I'm sorry. For everything. For the lies. For leading them here. I was trying to protect the kids. Catherine's expression softened. I know. We'll talk about it later. Now go. He descended into the darkness. The front door shuddered. Once. Twice. The deadbolts groaned under the assault. Catherine positioned herself behind the overturned dining table, shotgun aimed at the entrance. Ethan, go. Get your sister to safety. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. I've spent 3 years thinking you were dead. I'm not losing you again. Catherine looked at her son, and for a moment, the warrior dissolved. She was just a mother again. A mother who loved her children more than her own life. Then stay beside me. And when I tell you to run, you run. Promise me. Ethan gripped the fire poker. I promise. The door exploded inward. Men in black tactical gear flooded the cabin, flashlights cutting through the shadows. Catherine fired once, twice, 3 times. Bodies fell. Shouts echoed. But more kept coming. Always more. Now. Catherine screamed. Go now. Ethan ran for the trapdoor, but something caught his ankle. He crashed to the floor, the fire poker spinning away. A man stood over him, reaching down with gloved hands. Ethan kicked out, connecting with the man's knee. The attacker stumbled, giving Ethan enough time to scramble toward the ladder. Catherine provided cover fire, her shotgun thundering in the confined space. Keep going. Don't stop. Ethan descended into the tunnel, the sounds of gunfire fading above him. He ran through the darkness, hands brushing against damp earthen walls, heart pounding so loud he could barely hear himself think. Ahead, he saw a faint light. The ranger station. He emerged into the night air, gasping. Lily was there, holding Emma. Richard stood beside an old truck, engine already running. But Catherine was not behind him. Ethan turned back toward the tunnel entrance. Mom. Mom, where are you? Silence. Then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. A figure emerged from the darkness. But it was not Catherine. A man stepped into the moonlight. Tall. Gray-haired. Wearing a suit that cost more than the Parker family earned in a year. He smiled, and the smile was the coldest thing Ethan had ever seen. Hello, Ethan. I've been looking forward to meeting you. He gestured toward the cabin, now engulfed in flames behind him. Your mother put up quite a fight. But I'm afraid the game is over. Ethan's blood froze. Where is she? What did you do to her? The man tilted his head. That depends entirely on you. The evidence she gathered. The files she hid. You're going to help me find them. And in return, I might let your family live. Emma began to cry. Lily pulled her closer. Richard reached for the truck door, ready to run. But the man raised his hand, and a dozen red laser dots appeared on their chests. Snipers. Hidden in the trees. Surrounding them completely. I wouldn't do that, the man said calmly. Now then, shall we discuss terms? And somewhere in the burning cabin behind him, buried beneath smoke and ash, a woman lay motionless on the floor. Her hand still clutching a USB drive. The only copy of the evidence that could save them all. To be continued. The red laser dots danced across their chests like fireflies of death. Ethan stood frozen, his mind racing through impossible options. Run and die. Fight and die. Surrender and watch everyone he loved be destroyed anyway. The man in the expensive suit smiled, savoring their helplessness like a fine wine. Behind him, the cabin burned, consuming 3 years of his mother's sacrifice in hungry flames. And somewhere beneath that inferno lay Catherine Parker, the woman who had given up everything to protect her family. But Ethan refused to believe she was gone. Emma's crying had softened to whimpers. Lily held her tight, shielding her from the nightmare unfolding around them. Richard stood beside the truck, his face a mask of defeat. He had spent 15 years running from this moment. Now it had finally caught him. The man stepped closer, his polished shoes crunching against fallen leaves. My name is Senator Marcus Webb. Perhaps you've heard of me. Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Champion of national security. Pillar of the community. He chuckled softly. Also the man your mother has been trying to destroy for 15 years. Ethan's fists clenched. You're the one behind all of this. The threats. The disappearances. Everything. I prefer to think of myself as a survivor. Your mother stumbled onto something she shouldn't have. Instead of accepting a generous offer to look the other way, she chose to become a crusader. Crusaders make excellent martyrs, Ethan. But terrible mothers. Don't you dare talk about my mother. Webb raised an eyebrow. Such passion. I admire that. It's exactly why I'm offering you a choice. The evidence your mother gathered is hidden somewhere. Encrypted servers. Backup drives. Dead man's switches. You're going to help me find all of it. In return, I'll let your family disappear. New identities. New lives. You'll never hear from me again. Richard stepped forward. And if we refuse? Webb's smile vanished. Then I start with the little one. Then the sister you just discovered. Then your wife, assuming she's still breathing under all that rubble. And finally, I'll let you watch your son die knowing you could have saved them all. Emma buried her face in Lily's shoulder. Ethan felt rage building inside him, hot and uncontrollable. But rage without a plan was just noise. He needed time. Needed to think. The evidence, Ethan said slowly. I don't know where it is. My mother never told me. I find that hard to believe. Believe what you want. She sent us a photograph and an address. That's all we had. Webb studied him for a long moment. Then he gestured to one of his men. Search the truck. Check their phones. Find anything that might lead us to the files. As the men moved toward the vehicle, Ethan noticed something. A flicker of movement in the tree line behind Webb. A shadow that didn't belong to any of the snipers. His heart stopped. Biscuit. The old dog had escaped the cabin. He was circling through the darkness, moving with a purpose Ethan didn't understand. And clutched gently in his mouth was something that caught the moonlight. A USB drive. The same USB drive Catherine had been holding when the cabin was breached. Somehow, impossibly, she had gotten it to Biscuit before everything went wrong. The dog had done what he had always done. Protected the family. Carried their hope when no one else could. Ethan needed a distraction. He looked at Lily, catching her eye. She followed his gaze to the tree line. Understanding flickered across her face. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. Senator Webb, Lily said suddenly, her voice cutting through the tension. I know where the files are. Webb turned toward her, interest sparking in his cold eyes. Do you now? My mother told me everything. The primary server is in Cincinnati. I can take you there. But only if you let Emma and Ethan go first. Webb laughed. You expect me to negotiate with you? I expect you to be smart. Kill us all, and those dead man switches activate. Every news outlet in the country gets the files. Your career ends. Your legacy becomes a prison cell. Is that what you want? The senator's smile faltered. Lily had struck a nerve. While Webb considered her words, Biscuit moved closer. Ethan watched the dog navigate the shadows with the instincts of a creature who had survived 3 years alone. He was heading toward Richard, staying low, staying silent. Perhaps we can arrange something, Webb said finally. But I'll need proof that you're telling the truth. Lily stepped forward, drawing Webb's attention further away from the tree line. The server is in a warehouse on 5th Street. I have the access codes memorized. Take me there, verify the files exist, and then release my family. Webb nodded slowly. You're smarter than I expected. Your mother would be proud. Behind him, Biscuit reached Richard. The old dog dropped the USB drive at his feet, then melted back into the shadows. Richard glanced down, his eyes widening. He looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at Lily. A plan formed in the space between heartbeats. There's just one problem with your offer, Webb continued, stepping toward Lily. I don't leave witnesses. He raised his hand to signal the snipers. But Richard was faster. He dove into the truck and slammed his hand on the horn. The sudden blast of sound shattered the night stillness. The snipers flinched. Webb spun around. And in that single moment of chaos, everything changed. Ethan grabbed Emma and ran toward the forest. Lily followed, pulling Richard with her. Biscuit led the way, barking furiously, guiding them through the darkness with an instinct that defied explanation. Gunshots cracked through the air. Bullets splintered tree bark inches from Ethan's head. But the forest was thick, the night was dark, and the Parker family had one advantage their pursuers did not. They had something worth living for. They ran until their lungs burned. Until the gunshots faded into distant echoes. Until they emerged onto a road where an old ranger station sat waiting, exactly as Catherine had promised. And leaning against the station wall, bloodied but alive, was Catherine Parker. Emma screamed with joy and sprinted toward her mother. Catherine caught her, holding her tight, sobbing into her daughter's hair. Lily collapsed beside them, wrapping her arms around the family she had just discovered. Richard fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Ethan stood frozen, hardly believing what he was seeing. "Mom," he whispered. "How?" Catherine looked up, smiling through her tears. "I told you, baby. I planned for everything. The cabin had a second exit. I crawled out just before the fire reached me. Biscuit found me, gave me the drive. That old dog has saved this family more times than I can count." Biscuit wagged his tail, finally at peace. Ethan knelt beside his mother, pulling her into an embrace 3 years in the making. "It's over now, right? Tell me it's over." Catherine nodded. "I activated the dead man switch before we left the cabin. The files are already uploading to every major news network in the country. By morning, Senator Webb and everyone connected to the foundation will be exposed. It's over, Ethan. It's finally over." For the first time in 3 years, the Parker family was whole again. 1 month later, the nation watched as Senator Marcus Webb was led from his office in handcuffs. 14 other officials followed. The foundation crumbled beneath the weight of evidence that Catherine Parker had spent 15 years gathering. And in a small house in Columbus, Ohio, a family sat together for Sunday breakfast, laughing, crying, healing. Emma placed her hand on Biscuit's golden fur. The old dog sighed contentedly, his journey finally complete. "Thank you, Biscuit," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing Mommy home." And in that moment, surrounded by the people he had spent 3 years trying to reunite, Biscuit closed his eyes and rested. He had done what he was born to do. He had saved his family. If this story touched your heart, you are exactly where you belong. This channel is dedicated to stories about love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that hold families together. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change the way you see the world. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you do to protect the ones you love? Share this video with someone who needs to believe in second chances. And remember, no matter how dark the night becomes, love always finds a way home. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next story.